And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Joined now by millennial specialist out of Virginia, Brian Boucher. Brian, good morning.
Good to be with you, Kevin.
Let's talk a little bit about the Starbucks situation. Who would have ever thought that, somebody comes in, all of a sudden they want to use the restroom. You say you can't use the restroom. All of a sudden they don't want to leave. And it's a huge national issue. Your reaction to how Starbucks handled the situation, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess when it comes to Starbucks nationally, are they handling the issue well? I think that they're doing trainings. They're going to close all their stores in the United States on the 29th to do essentially bias training, led by Eric Holder, nonetheless. That's like bringing in Nancy Grace to come in and teach you how to sleep better at night. But Eric Holder is going to lead their training on race bias after spending the last 7.5 years stoking race relations in America. But whatever, that's a good choice. But I don't think Starbucks is handling it all that well. And I think by doing that on the 29th, I think that they're really just kind of window dressing the issue instead of approaching it at a deeper level on an individual store-by-store basis. And, from my perspective as someone who works with Fortune 500 companies all the time, the key to addressing these kinds of issues is to get those frontline, relatively low-wage employees into teams where they can hold each other accountable on issues like this from store to store.
Well, Brian, did they do anything wrong?
That's really unclear because the video that is, circling the web over and over and over is just video of the arrest. If you approach this from a legal perspective, I am really out of context here. I don't know what happened before. I don't know what time they walked in the door. I don't know if they tried to use the restroom, tried to order coffee. Maybe they tried to order coffee and the employee that took their order or was going to take their order left the store. You really don't have a lot of context here. You have witness accounts. One woman said that she personally, as a white woman, sat in the store for almost an hour without ordering anything and was not asked to leave. Okay, so that would tend to suggest that perhaps this was motivated by race. But we're really out of context here. We're only seeing this thing in the silo of the short video of the two men being arrested.
Brian Boucher with us, the Millennial Solution. He is the chief operating officer at the Millennial Solution. So what do you say to people that are struggling to deal with millennials?
Yeah, when it comes to millennials, it can be a tough issue, right? I spend most of my time working with companies trying to understand how to optimize, retain, and attract the next great generation of talent. And the big frustration with millennials oftentimes is they're entitled. They want a promotion in 3 months. They come here expecting the world. They don't want to come in until 10 o'clock. We start our days at 8 here. Honestly, our big goal is to get generations working better together in the workplace, and that we can all understand that there's a lot of myths when it comes to all generations, Xers, boomers, millennials. But right now, millennials are in focus because they're the younger generation in the workplace. And I think the key here is to recognize that this generation is one of the most motivated, educated generations. But the question becomes, how do you motivate them? What do you motivate them with? It's not the same as it was for previous generations.
And, Brian, why is that? Is it because they're so big and they're used to everything adjusting for them as opposed to vice versa?
Yeah, great point. There's 83 million millennials in the United States, more millennials than there is population in Germany, so there's a lot of them. But they're the digital native microwave generation. It's no wonder they expect things quickly when they can dial up their phone and bring a black car service to wherever they are. This is what kind of embodies this generation. But millennials are also motivated by mission and purpose before they are motivated by money. They like money, but they are motivated by mission and purpose first. And so as a company, if you can tap into that sensibility of, in the mind of a millennial, you're going to have better fortune, if you will, in terms of retaining them and engaging them in the workplace longer.
Have they become passé, though, considering that, some of the oldest millennials are approaching 40, right?
Yeah, they're the oldest millennials, and it depends, of course, who you look at, whether it's Pew, the U.S. Census Bureau. We go with the U.S. Census Bureau in terms of the generation. Oldest millennials around 36 years old. And when you look at that in terms of politics, you look at conservatives and Republicans seem to view that millennials are just college students. And I think they're going to be in for a surprise when the 2018 elections come around, that you can't just sit there and hope that millennials won't show up in elections, because they are going to show up. They're as old as 36. And it's just not a good strategy to hope that they won't show up.
Well, I mean, that's the interesting part about this, is they are maturing into the workforce, And, everybody seems to be stuck in this time zone, as Brian, as you pointed out, that they're college kids, and that's far from it.
Yeah, it's very far from it. I was at a White House forum not too long ago with President Trump, Ivanka Trump, Secretary Acosta of the Labor Department, and it seems as if those in government do view millennials as college students and that they're not really that worried about them when it comes to the voting booths. But that's a strategy that is going to end in great disappointment if their approach doesn't change.
Well, the troubling part for Republicans, though, is you look at the polling, and usually most of the millennials are libs.
Yeah, they're voting 2-1 Democrat, at least according to the polls. Now, we don't know how much oversampling's gone on, but 2-1 is well outside the margin of error and would tell any Republican or conservative strategist that you better change your mindset. I was on the radio not too long ago, a couple of days ago, where a guy, very top performing, conservative strategist that suggested on the radio, well, we're really hoping that they won't show up. I'm like, anybody who hired that guy, fire them. That is not a good strategy. What are you paying this guy for? We just hope they don't show up. All right, let's put out some more yard signs.
Well, yard signs are effective. Brian Boucher with us, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. So how do you appeal to millennials, considering that they, again, to your point, they could be oversampled, but most seem to be agnostic when it comes to the social issues. The political issues, they're still tipping their toes into the water. So if you were advising, you advise Fortune 500 companies, you advise political folks, what do you say to them to get the millennials to take a look at the Republicans?
Social issues are not a good starting point. We'll start with that one right there, but I'll tell you the best starting point is student loans, a private sector student loan solution, and entrepreneurship. If you poll test the words socialism versus capitalism, millennials choose socialism, hands down over capitalism because they believe socialism is a kind of a mindset of that we're all in this together. They don't know what it really is. But if you poll test free markets versus government control of resources, they pick free markets every single time. And 67% of millennials desire to start their own business one day. Not all of them will, but there's a desire there that conservatives with the free market argument have the upper hand, but they're not doing it. They need to tap into their entrepreneurial sensibilities. And something we're advocating for is to get behind a private sector student loan solution that allows companies to match the student loan payments of their employees using free tax dollars.
See, Brian, you bring up a great point, and as an older Generation Xer, I've often marveled at the boomers on one hand. I thought there would never be a generation bigger, and then we have the millennials on the other, which dwarf the boomers, if you will. And just the idea of appealing to them. I would go to conferences throughout the country. I'd educate myself, and your issue that you said, student loans, is the number one issue, certainly with millennials, but you still have people that are paying off their mortgage, getting ready to collect Social Security, that are still paying off student loan debts. It's something that neither party has rightfully addressed.
No, they haven't, and I think Republicans have the upper hand here because Democrats are just going to promise some kind of government bailout or write-off, and that's not something you want if you're a conservative trying to win. You need a private sector solution here. But I know as a business owner, the number one way to develop a relationship with millennials is to solve their number one problem and help them achieve their number one desire. They've got to get rid of their student loans, and they want to be successful in the marketplace. That's it. That's what Republicans need to focus on, and they're not currently doing it. And if you got strategists, folks, I know if there's any Republicans out there running campaigns right now, if you got strategists telling you that the strategy is this, we hope they don't show up, you need to fire that strategist.
My favorite is in the yard signs. So back to Starbucks, 8,000 stores closing for a day for Racial Bias Education Day. And the press loves this, but on the other hand, could they be going too far?
I don't know. I mean, I wonder how much how much lost revenue to close all these stores for one day of window dressing, an issue that is so much deeper than just one day of training. I don't know. Maybe Eric Holder said, okay, I'll do the training if you pay me all your revenue for the one day. Then I'll come in and do the training. Who knows? But this is really, I think it's window dressing the issue. I think this is deeper than that. I think all of us walk through society with some kind of implicit bias. And it's not just on race. I mean, we deal in generations in the workplace. There are all kinds of implicit biases from older employees and younger employees towards each other that I think we have to deal with before we start making decisions in the marketplace. The key here is putting low-wage frontline employees into teams with proper accountability from their first line managers. That is the key here. And I hope that happens, that this isn't just a one-day event, that is really just a good press release for Starbucks to get past this crisis.
Finally, article in the New York Times over the weekend talking about people running in primaries, and it seems to be the strategy in most places. I'm Trump. I was Trump before I was Trump. I'm more Trump than you. What do you make of that strategy for a primary?
Kind of fascinating. This is more than just riding the coattails of the Trump revolution, if you will. This is more like Trump posers. I don't know what's really gotten into these candidates. I mean, it's fine to be pro-Trump. I would never advise a campaign to be anti-Trump. All you have to do is look at Trump's long list of public relations enemies and how many of them won. Zero's the answer. Then none of them won. None of them won. And every time like a Jeff Flake or somebody crops up, they're like, I think it's a good strategy that I'll pit myself against Donald Trump. You're an idiot. You have no social media following. You're never going to get enough attention to beat the guy. So it's good to be pro-Trump, but there are some people who are like, no, I'm more pro-Trump. No, I'm more pro-Trump. It's kind of, now it's just getting into, it's sinking a little low, if you will.
Indeed. Brian, if people want to check you out, whether it's online, whether it's in person, what can they do?
Yeah, head on over to millennialsolution.com. If you got companies that are listening right now that are struggling to retain their millennial talent, we have a ton of free resources over at millennialsolution.com, and we'd love to talk to you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
There. He was on fire. All right. All righty then. Coming up next, safety at the Waffle House. But this is a story emanating out of Nashville, Tennessee. You have this horrible, tragic shooting. Now people are calling for more gun control. When will they ever learn that it's not the guns, it's the perps that we need to control? We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, Evan Brown with the latest on that shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. But when you hear of these things, what goes on in your mind? This terrible, terrible shooting where you have someone walking into a Waffle House in the middle of the night, if you will. The search continues for the suspected gunman, who police say shot and killed 4 people at a Waffle House in Tennessee. And now you have the mayor of the city of Nashville saying, well, we need to do something. We need to put this at ease. We need your guns. And then you have folks that are good people that say to themselves, well, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. Let's vilify the AR-15. Let's take people's guns. Let's trust in the government. And that would be great if all of a sudden we could trust the government, right? Think about what the government has done to us after 8 years of Barack Obama, with the IRS, with the NSA, with the CIA being weaponized against its own people. And remember, the founding principles of the United States of America, it was against tyranny. It was against the government. So do you trust the government or do you trust individuals? Now, James Shaw, the hero in Sunday's shooting at the Waffle House in Antioch, Tennessee, got emotional describing how he took down the shooter. We all hope that we would be as courageous as this young man, right? Think about what it took to take down this individual. When all of a sudden you're sitting there and this guy is opening up on people, and you think to yourself, what would I do? Would I have enough guts to do the right thing? Now, most people would say, you know something, Kevin Miller? That's why I carry a weapon. And you would be right. You would be right here in the state of Idaho. Most people conceal and carry. I was at the Winco the other day, and some guy, shuffled his hoodie over so I wouldn't see his weapon. I saw it already, right? But that happens. And instead of disarming the public, why not continue to arm the public?
I'm not a hero. I'm just a regular person. And I think anybody could have did what I did if they're just pushed in that kind of cage.
That's right. You would hope, unlike the security guards at the school shooting that ran the other way, you would run towards the sound of the gunfire. Now remember, the suspect in Sunday's shooting spree at the Waffle House was arrested in 2017 for crossing a security barrier near the White House. So Fox's Brian Lianis reports 29-year-old Travis Rinkin was barred from owning weapons, but a family member didn't listen. So the laws were already in place, and yet you have people saying we need to ban weapons.
Based on that arrest and interview, they decided to take away his 4 guns. They revoked his firearms owner identification card that he had received in Illinois. They took those 4 guns away from him, and they gave them to his father. His father then, according to police, gave him back the weapons. One of those weapons, the AR-15, was used to shoot down and kill 4 people, 2 outside the Waffle House and 2 inside, while injuring 4 others, 2 who are in critical condition.
And they are in our prayers. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Is it the gun? Is it the perp? We'll talk a little bit more about that, plus gas prices. But getting back to this situation, well, let me share that with you in a minute. Our time is 6:24. Kevin Miller in the morning. Time for traffic and weather. And, we take a look at these situations that happen. I recently had a chance, thanks to our friend Terry Shepard, Mr. Ben Franklin here in the Treasure Valley, to host the Patriots Day celebration, right? And in that, you had people walking around with AR-15s with full magazines. In that, you had people walking around with, their Glocks or their Berettas or what have you, their sidearms. And nothing happened. Shocking. Because you hear the hype machine going on throughout the Treasure Valley, throughout the country. We've got to stop these weapons. If the weapons were taken away from the guy, then why in the world would you think that more laws would stop these people? Isn't it up to the citizens to make that happen? Let's go to the phones. We'll start with Doug in Cuna. It's been a while. Doug, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call. I was watching the news this morning, and we had in this area, we had 3 people stabbed over the weekend. So, but I don't hear anybody crying that we need to ban knives, because a knife, a gun, they're all inanimate objects. They're tools that we as people use, and we can use them for good or we can use them for bad. It's, the person behind it, the person holding it is the one that decides. So, all this gun control garbage is ridiculous. They're trying to go after an inanimate object when they need to focus on the people. It's not, that gun or that knife doesn't just jump up and go kill somebody. So, there are arguments
is it knife control? Is it car control? Is it fork control?
Well, yeah. You look at the number of people killed every year with knives versus guns, and I think it's almost twice as many people are killed with knives as with guns. But nobody's crying that we need to take away people's knives.
Right. You don't have the mayor of Nampa calling for knife control.
Exactly. And, if you take the guns away or you take the knives away or you take the cars away, a bad person is going to figure out a way to do what they want to do no matter what. That's one of the things that sets us as human beings apart from the rest of the animal kingdom is our ability to reason. So if we have a problem and we want to figure, if we want to make a statement and go kill a bunch of people, well, we're going to figure out a way, whether it's with a car, whether it's with a truck, a gun, whatever. So, stop focusing on inanimate pieces of steel, focus on the people and what's causing the problem. But that's all I've got, Kevin.
Doug, thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We're going to give you the other side of the equation here that you're not going to hear from the national press. You're certainly not going to hear from the local press. They all have their issues, but the idea of being a hero. An unarmed hero is one thing, but if everybody has a weapon, these shootings wouldn't happen. It's counterintuitive to what we're hearing from the national press, from the gun grabbers. Well, nobody should have weapons. How's that going to happen in America? You know who are going to have weapons? The criminals. Here's more of the hero, James Shaw Jr.
The gun was kind of jammed up and it was pushed down, so we were scuffling. And I managed to get him with one hand on the gun, and then I grabbed it from him and I threw it over the countertop.
Amazing. More on gun control next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. And out to Eben Brown in Miami, exclusively at Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Eben, good morning.
Good morning.
So it's the end of the world today.
Can't you tell? Take cover.
Well, we're going to start playing that REM song, I guess. It's the end of the world.
I think everyone will be. There's been a number of supposed numerologists that have said that today would be the end of the world, citing a bunch of things that we've often heard in late-night talk radio and things like that about weird planets, Planet X or Nibiru, and causing a collapse and a catastrophe for planet Earth. I seem to remember something about 2012 being like this as well, and they even had a movie about it. And of course, nothing happened. So I think we're all going to be safe. You don't have to stock up on anything, and even if you did, if it was going to happen, it really wouldn't matter how much duct tape and MREs you had ready, because you wouldn't be around to eat them. But I think you'll be okay, but don't be surprised if you see a lot of people talking about it today.
No, I was trying to think of the movie, what was it, The Asteroid or whatever, with Bruce Willis, and there were a couple other ones. Armageddon, thank you. And then
you can't forget the Aerosmith song that played every 5 minutes.
And then we've, of course, Y2K and everything else.
Sure. So we've been through this plenty of times before, and I dare say we'll survive this apocalypse too. But it's really, I guess, interesting to me how so many people kind of gravitate towards this stuff. It's really not based in any good scientific study, but there are plenty of people who will cling on to this and think that the world is going to end, and we really don't have any good reason to believe that it would on this specific date or any other date that these people pick.
I like how you're so serious with this. Well, we don't have any information but if it does end, we've covered it, I think, thoroughly.
I think so. I've done my job. You go do yours.
Eben, somewhere the late great Art Bell is smiling down on us.
He is, the poor guy. He would have been, he probably, no, that's just what I'm talking about. Someone like Art Bell would have entertained this discussion, and that's what he did, I think, very well, is that, he was on for like 6 hours every night, or when he was, back in the day anyway, and he would allow people to discuss this stuff, and he'd say, oh, that's pretty interesting. I don't think he ever really bought into it, but he at least gave people a platform and made for entertaining stuff in the middle of the night when you couldn't get to sleep. But it just goes to show how many people there are out there that do cling to these pseudosciences, essentially, and get all worked up about this.
I still loved it when, and it was very rare when you'd have angry Art. And
it happened every once in a while.
You could tell when he'd have enough of the shadow people and everyone else, you'd get angry Art, but it was very, very rare. And
he was known for being pretty cool and calm and collected, but once in a while he could get a little bit. He was entitled, I guess. But what can you do every night when you spend every night taking calls west of the Rockies, east of the Rockies, the wild card line?
Eben, thank you. You have a great day.
You too.
Eben Brown joining us from Fox News Radio. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, the exclusive home for Fox News here in the Treasure Valley. And how many of us have ever worked overnights? Now, what's the best overnight job you ever had? Now, I've had a few. But imagine, you're working overnight, and there's a rite of passage, and maybe it's with everybody. It's not just men these days that, women and men work security guards, working security overnights. And there's just something spooky, obviously, because it's third shift from 11 to 7, where you just get on, the second shift guy, he's made it through, he's happy, he's out the door. Maybe you have some stale donuts left over from the morning shift, and then you have to walk the rounds, and you got your little slide card or your computer monitoring thing. I don't even know if they have overnight security anymore. I know our friend security guard Mike works security. But there's always something eerie, like you hear something. And then you have, now it's George Noory, but before that, Art Bell, just like Evan said, west of the Rockies, the wild card line, Area 51, out in the middle of the desert. Could you imagine, and of course we are in the West, the appeal of Art Bell in the middle of a desert? Your home is where you're broadcasting from, and anything could happen. Just that spontaneity. And I think George Noory broadcasts from Los Angeles now, but George got his start in St. Louis. And you'll hear George Noory talk a little bit about St. Louis and how George Noory, when Art Bell decided to leave, they found George Noory as his show. I think it was either a late night or an overnight show, was doing just as good as Coast to Coast. And that was how many years ago? But think about that, you always have people saying it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. Sooner or later, unfortunately, I think they're going to get it right. Maybe, hopefully not for a while. Oil approaching $70 a barrel. Coming up, we'll talk to Dave Petzo. And Dave Petzo, the Petzo Center, he says, well, Kevin, this is good. I don't think it's so good. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that. That is having an impact on our gas prices here in the Treasure Valley. And as I wrote about at KIDOTalkRadio.com, you think to yourself, what's it going to take for someone to figure out how to lower gas prices?
Entirely higher crude oil prices. Those are already mostly built into the retail price. A small amount of it was also the shift to higher cost gasoline required in the summertime, and that also is mostly built into the price. So if we don't have another crude oil price hike, this should be more or less it for the price hike this spring.
To own an oil company, to own oil stocks. Now, the president, he's mad because he says OPEC's a cartel. I get it. And if you're not old enough to remember, Google this, the oil embargo, the OPEC oil embargo in the 70s. You think it's bad now when you pull into the gas station and all of a sudden you have to sit back and you have to wait. In the old days, you had people lining up for blocks and blocks to get gas, and they could only buy it on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'm not making this up, because they were rationing gas because the Arab oil embargo decided to stick it to the United States of America. Now, what I don't understand, and it's a battle, and maybe we'll get into this with Dave Petzo, or you can explain it to me at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, nationalism versus capitalism. Did you know in America today, even though we haven't built a refinery, which personally I think we have a lot of desert land, why not build a refinery in Idaho? We could service Seattle. We could service Portland. We could tell Montana thanks but no thanks. We could use it to augment what we get from Salt Lake. But we haven't built a new refinery in this country in years because of the environmental considerations. Okay, I get it. They've made the old dilapidated ones, and they've closed a bunch of refineries, so efficient that we're actually exporting gasoline. And yes, the oil companies do get subsidized, and I never want to hear about how the oil companies don't make any money. Just my own personal bias on this one. But we make so much surplus gasoline that we get it, we ship it over here, we refine it, and then we ship it out, and we sell it for more money. So much so that the American citizens have to pay more in gas. Why? Because we're conditioned to pay more in gasoline, right? Look at Trilby Lundberg. Trilby Lundberg. Anytime the gas prices go up, she tells you about it. But really, do we really have to pay higher gasoline costs? No. But it's capitalism versus nationalism. Exxon, Shell, all these big companies, they know that they can make more money selling it to the Chinese or the Japanese than to American citizens. So our gas is artificially spiked. You can't tell me in the age of Tesla, in the age of cars that park themselves, that we still have to pay high gas prices when it comes to, we got to go from winter to summer blend, and that's more expensive. Why is it more expensive? Because there's more people on the roads. Really? Is that why we still take 3 months off in the summer so the kids can work the fields?
Gasoline prices rose again, this time bigger, 9 cents per gallon. The new average is $2.83. It's been a 24-cent hike over the past 2 months. And it's the highest retail price since late June of 2015, nearly 3 years ago.
Man, we had a good run there, Trilby. Had a good run of low gas prices. And you know what that means? That inflates the cost of everything. Inflates the cost of flights to Hawaii or east of the Great River or maybe down to Scottsdale or what have you, right? And yet we kind of sit there and take it. Well, the reason why they can do it is because we take it. So as we've put to the gubernatorial candidates, by the way, we will be going weekly with these guys now. We have our friend Brad Little confirmed for this week. We're still waiting for Dr. Ahlquist and Congressman Labrador. We've just sent out the request today, and Steve Pankey. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, how about real solutions to real problems?
Gasoline prices rose again, this time bigger, 9 cents per gallon. The new average is $2.83.
Right. So why in the world, in the best place ever to live in America, are we getting stuck with high gasoline prices? And like I said, I really don't think well, this is just how it is, really suffices. Do you?
The high in this panel of cities, San Francisco, 368 for regular, and the low was Baton Rouge at 245.
I guess we can say thank goodness that we don't live in San Francisco. You can say that about a lot of things. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Much more on gasoline prices and the Second Amendment. What's it going to take for people to understand that it's not the guns, it's the criminals that are to blame? Or maybe you disagree and you'd like to share your thoughts on why you're a gun grabber. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And liberal celebrities are teaming up to go after the NRA, calling it the No Rifle Association. Let's take a listen from Fox and Friends on KIDO Talk Radio.
Liberal celebrities and activists are teaming up to take on the NRA by joining what they're calling the No Rifle Association, including folks like Alec Baldwin and Jimmy Kimmel. Are they just revealing what they ultimately want, which is to take away the guns?
Yeah, I mean, they're completely interested in repealing the Second Amendment. Here we are again with Hollywood elites lecturing the rest of the country about an organization that has been protecting their Second Amendment rights since 1871. The National Rifle Association is the oldest civil rights organization in this country. And while Hollywood elites can pay people with guns to walk them down the red carpet to protect them in their gated communities, we regular people can't afford that, and we need to protect ourselves. And the NRA has been lobbying to protect those rights for centuries now, and so they can try it. But as the Hollywood elites have been attacking the NRA, they've seen their membership actually skyrocket, and over the next 100 days, they're trying to get 100,000 more members to sign up. And look, this isn't just about gun ownership. I can tell you, I've met a number of people who have never owned a gun, never shot a gun, who are signing up to be NRA members because they see this as an attack on civil liberties, and they're sick of it. So it's not just gun owners or right-wing crazies who are
I love Fox and Friends, right-wing crazies. Anyway, there's another controversy. You've got, who is it, Jay Feely. Did you see this one? Jay Feely went on Twitter, former NFL star, armed with a gun. And get this. Now, think about this for a minute at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So Jay is sitting there. His daughter is getting ready to go to prom. And he's got a firearm in the picture saying, wishing my daughter's prom date, prom a great time. I know it's a little convoluted here, but I'm trying to, again, accurately describe this thing where, again, you have a picture of a beautiful young lady going to the prom. You have the boyfriend right there. And then all of a sudden you have Jay Feely holding a handgun. So what's wrong with that? Well, you have people just going crazy saying, oh, this is irresponsible, this is bad. And as we've seen, people are trying to disarm America. Now, on the other hand, you could disagree with this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO and say, well, you know something, Kevin? It is the gun problem. We need to have more controls on guns. We need to stop these people from having access to firearms because we've seen the amount of crimes going up. Of course, again, back in the day, and what's that, Ray? Jay Feely grew up in Ontario, and his dad was your math teacher. Wow. So I thought he had some connections here. So here you have a guy doing his own business, minding his own business, putting on Twitter. And you know the old joke, when you'd go to somebody's house and you'd take them out to the prom, Dad would have the shotgun, right? Dad would have the shotgun. So here is the text. Wishing my beautiful daughter and her date a great time at the prom. And Jay has his arm around his daughter, and he's got it. Then you have the other guy, nice-looking young man, next to Jay, and Jay has his gun. Can we not joke about these things anymore? Is that going too far? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Now Jay's got to apologize. More on that in a minute, right? Traffic and... Thank you, Larry. Kevin Miller in the morning. Our time is 6:57. Coming up, Dave Petzo and State Representative and Congressional candidate Christy Perry will join us in studio at 7:35. So here you have former NFL star Jay Feely with his daughter and her prom date saying, wishing my daughter, my beautiful daughter, a happy prom. And then you have some comments on Facebook. If this was my kid, I wouldn't want him threatening my child with a gun. I get his sentiment, but that boy is still a kid. And then you have somebody else saying, it's a joke. Did you see the two kids that are smiling and posing for the picture? They understood. Get over yourselves, please, and leave us normal people with a sense of humor alone. Our girl Holly in Caldwell on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Holly.
Hey, how are you?
I am living the dream, and you?
You know, got to say, we just got to ask the question, do we want to continue to be a free nation? And do we have to get in the middle of everybody's business over the dumbest stuff? I mean, nobody can even have a sense of humor anymore. And, of course, we have the Second Amendment and the First Amendment, and then we have things going viral in this big social push to control everything everybody else does. And I think it's a sad day in America, and I encourage everybody to read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and understand what that means.
Well, again, it's mob rule is what it is.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then I'm also, I guess the thing is people don't really want to form their own opinion. They want to see what's politically correct on the day of the news or there's just no critical thinking, and it's really sad.
Right. And again, let's shout everybody down. Let's call people names. Let's vilify the AR-15.
Correct. It's yes. And what a terrible person he is there always used to be those things that people had out, application to date my daughter. He was just being funny, but he does have a right to bear arms. He wasn't holding it up to the
Holly, great point.
Or doing anything gross.
Holly, thanks. Good morning.